Hey everyone, I cured my glass art project on this in 2 hours and I did not use a fast cure resin. Follow along and see what I make. Real cute Halloween project. This project, I painted a 12 by 12 inch picture frame that I had picked up at a garage sale. After I removed all the backing, I took Elmer's glue and put it around the perimeter of the back of the frame where the glass would sit. Then I replaced the glass and took Elmer's glue one more time and put it around the perimeter. This serves two purposes. It helps to hold the glass in place and it helps to prevent resin leaks when you put resin on the other side. This takes overnight and sometimes up to 24 hours to dry, depending on how much glue you use. Just a temporary hold for the glass. When you put resin on the other side, once that cures, that's what will permanently adhere the glass to the frame. The glue had dried. I did put painter's tape around the perimeter as an extra precaution against resin leaks. Next, I printed up a pumpkin off of my Cricut clip art, cut it out, and taped it to the back of the glass. Then I painted. So when you paint on glass, it's a lot more difficult than painting on canvas because you can only put one layer at a time and let it dry in between, because if you try to paint before it's totally dry, you'll pull up the layer from before. And at first I was going to leave those lines in there because that's where I'm going to place my rhinestone chains, but I ended up painting the entire area pink. Then after you have the main outline of the pumpkin, it's important that you take the paper off the back and hold it up and look at it, because more than likely you can see through it. You really, when you're painting on glass, you have to put like 5 layers of paint on to cover everything up. Like I said, it's more difficult than painting on a canvas. I also ended up painting some cabochons, or they also call them flatbacks. And when you paint these, all you have to do is paint the back of them. I'm not sure how many of you know that. And the front looks that color because the back is painted. So I wanted to make some lines on the pumpkin instead of painting them in. I decided to use the black rhinestone chains. So what I did was I took Elmer's glue and made my lines and also traced all the way around the perimeter of the pumpkin. And then I took a 4mm rhinestone chain and placed it right on top of my glue lines. It's real easy to do, and then to move the rhinestone chain around while it's still wet, just use a little toothpick. And the great thing about using the clear Elmer's glue is once it's perfectly dry and you pour the resin over it, you cannot see it at all. And it's very important that the glue is perfectly dry before you pour resin on it, and it's really important that you use the clear Elmer's glue, not the regular white school glue. In that silver stem that I painted on the top, I end up taking that off, and that's a great thing about using paint on glass. You can just take a razor blade and remove the paint, and you can also reshape it with the razor blade. Like if it gets in an area that you don't want it, you can just use the razor to take that off. And then here I am putting the little black cabochons on. I end up using different ones that are a little bit flatter. Now I'm kind of second guessing myself. Maybe I should have used these, but anyway, it is what it is. You'll see at the end what I end up using, but I did paint them black also. After I take the paint off for the stem, I take some clear Elmer's glue and draw out the area that I want the stem to be in, and I take again my 4mm rhinestone chain and just lay it on top of the clear Elmer's glue. And remember, the clear Elmer's glue has to be perfectly dry before you can pour resin over it. And don't worry about going out of the lines or wiping up around it. It's fine just as it is. The resin will totally cover the dried glue. So next I'm putting some glass at the very bottom, and the glass I'm using is actually some mirrored 1/4 inch fire glass that I had picked up. And I also am taking a bunch of little beads. It's a combination of black and I think magenta beads, black, clear, and magenta beads on top of the fire glass. So next I'm going to show you how I made the black bow with this into resin mold. And I'm using Bond Crafter black resin. They actually have resin that's already colored black. It's a
two-part resin. You just mix together like any other resin for 3 minutes. It's difficult to tell whether it's mixed or not because you can't see any lines in it, but so you need to do it for 3 minutes, and then I put it in the bubble removal machine. Although each time I've ever mixed this, it doesn't have any bubbles. I'm not sure why, if the pigment prevents it or what, but anyway, I did put it through the bubble removal machine for 5 minutes and then poured it into resin mold. Did only fill it halfway up because I do not want that thick of a bow, and that's what's great about this mold here. You can make it a real fat bow where it stands up on its own, or you can make it a thinner bow. But if you make it a thinner bow, you have to tilt it one way so that it goes down into the ribbon portion of it. So what I do is I just get some popsicle sticks and stick it underneath one edge of it so that it tilts it up. And here I'm using the Resiner's new G3 2-in-1 curing machine. It's actually can cure the 1-to-1 resin, the regular epoxy resin, and also UV resin. So it's really neat, and I'm going to have a video out later this week about it. So you just turn it on by pushing that button, and you can select whether you want it, and like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on it, but you can select whether you want it in the short mode, the tall mode, or the UV mode, and you can also choose how long you want it on, if you're doing the regular epoxy resin, for how many hours or minutes you want it, and you can then also select the temperature that you want it at. So my bow will be ready in 2 hours, and then I let it sit for a half an hour to cool. So it's really like using a fast cure resin. And isn't that pretty? I think that turned out so pretty. I think it's called the diamond effect. And I have a link and a discount code in the description under my video. I've used that same bow mold for 2 different projects that I've recently done. One for the ghost, the big ghost, and then one for the little ghost. And I think that bow is so cute because, like I said, you can make it as thin or as thick as you want it. So next, my project's ready for the resin. The resin I'm using for this project is Bond Crafter resin, regular 1-to-1 ratio resin I use all the time. I drizzle it on the glass first and then up onto the pumpkin, and I don't want it super flooded on the pumpkin, so I'm just drizzling a little bit and then kind of spreading it out with my little silicone brush there. Next, I take my little dots that I've painted black. Remember, originally I had the cabochons, and now after I see this, I almost wish I would have kept the rounded cabochons because some of them were different sizes, and I thought that looked cuter. But anyway, I put a little resin on the top of each of them. And then I took some Ashland decorative filler. This is Ashland decorative filler that I painted, I think, with the Bombay Dr. Martin Bombay India ink, the color magenta. And the Dr. Bombay India ink doesn't fade and doesn't run as long as it's perfectly dry. And then I take my resin and I go around the edges and up into the corners, because even though they say resin is self-leveling, it's really important that you spread it around and make sure all areas are covered. Next, I take a little bit of resin and I put it on the back of the bow. So these kind of molds, you do not want to pour resin over the top of them because it will take away the diamond effect of the mold. So just put a little bit of resin on the back and set it down. And then for the crushed glass that I'm putting around the pumpkin, this is also another Ashland decorative filler, and it's called crushed gold glass. It's larger than their regular crushed glass, but smaller than 1/4-inch fire glass that you would get on Amazon. And even though they call it gold crushed glass, to me it looks silver. And then this little bee was actually, I think, yellow to begin with, and I actually took some of the same paint that I painted the pumpkin with and painted the stone on the bee the same magenta color, and after it dried, put it on the project. Next, I use the heat gun to get rid of any bubbles, and it really doesn't have any bubbles. I don't see any, but I go over it just in case. Whenever I'm done with the project, I always come back every 15 minutes to check for glass placement, to check for bubbles, and retorch or reheat if necessary. I also use a toothpick to get any sediment out that I might see. So this particular resin sets best at temperatures between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. All resins are different. It's in your best interest to read the directions for the resin that you are using. I actually have this glass art on a heat table, and I've never used it for glass art. I've only used it for molds before, the heat portion of it. So we're going to see how this works out. So under my table I have a cover for it that comes with this heat table. You see how large it is? It is so nice. And the heat table or the cover actually folds down nice and compact, and all you do is pull up on this string like that, and you have a dust cover. And I just put it over the top, and we'll see how it turns out. I'm putting it up to the highest temperature, and we'll see what happens.
Hey everyone, it's my cute little pink pumpkin. I don't know what I think about it. Everything out there now, when you go into the stores for the Halloween stuff, it's pink and white and black. And I don't know. I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but when I finish something, I second guess myself and I think, oh, I should have done a lighter pink. I should have used the cabochons instead of these, because the cabochons had a variation in size. And then I thought, oh, I should have just painted it and sprinkled some glass on it. But anyway, it is what it is. It's cute. I think it looks Halloween-y. I feel like I need something up here, maybe some bats or something. But anyway, it was a pretty easy project. Painting on glass can be kind of a pain though, because at least with acrylic paint, I don't know if there's an easier way, but you have to put multiple layers, and you really have to have it dry in between each layer. So, and I showed you the different, this bow mold from Into Resin is so cool because you can make it as thin or as fat as you want it. And I showed you the other projects that I had done and used the bow mold, and at all the stores they have all these bows, and I'm going to be doing some more projects with the bow mold. When I was in Hobby Lobby, in the little girl section, they have this area where they have the painted bows and for pictures to hang up in their room with all these different sayings under them, and it's really cute. And then of course all the Halloween stuff has bows on it this year, the ghosts on their head, and I even saw a witch's hat with a bow on it, and the skulls they have now with bows on top of them. I don't know if they had that in previous years or if I'm just noticing this year because I've got this mold. I'm not sure. Anyway, so 2 hours. This took 2 hours only to cure. Honestly, it's a game changer. I thought it was great for molds, and I was kind of afraid to try it with the glass on glass, but Yvonne from our Facebook page had mentioned that she uses it for her glass on glass all the time, so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and try it. And honestly, I put it up to the highest setting, put the top on, and 2 hours done. I let it cool for a half an hour before I did anything with it, but after 2 hours, I was touching it, no fingerprints or anything. It was cured. So it was really nice. So I have not tried it with canvas yet, so don't use it with canvas till I try it. So, but with glass on glass, it worked fine. And this was with the Bond Crafter resin, so I don't know how it will react with other resins. But I would think similar, unless you're using a coating resin. A coating resin may react differently. I'm not sure. So the Bond Crafter that I use is not a coating resin, it's a casting resin. So anyway, all in all, I think it turned out cute. I want to show you this table. So I've had this for about a month now. I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to plug it in. So this is really quite large. It's actually 26 by about almost 17 inches, 16 and a half inches. And don't be fooled because they have another one on there, and this is the size of it. So they actually, this is a different company. I didn't realize that. Oh, M-Care, and this is Hatter. Okay, I didn't realize that. So the M-Care is a lot smaller. This one's 65, this one's 95, but I'm telling you, it's worth every penny. It is really nice. So it's some resin on there. So to turn it on, you just hold that. And then to put the time on, you hit settings. I put it on for 2 hours. Hit settings again, and you can go to 122, 140, or 58. And each time you hit it, it will go up. And it's on. And then it comes with this cover that fits perfectly on it. But I also purchased this one. To go over the top. And this one cleans up real nice. I take off what I can with like the tape, and then I take it right to the sink, and I use a regular scrubber. I've used a Brillo pad just to go over it fast.
This is me actually cleaning it. I try to get as much stuff as I can off first, pulling it off, like the bigger pieces, and sometimes I'll use the tape to get it off. Mine really gets messy because I do a lot of molds on it and drip a lot of stuff. I'm not super careful. I'll pick it up and I'll shake the excess off into the garbage can, and then I'll take it over to the sink, and I put the strainer in there so that no resin pieces go down the drain. I spray it with some of that Dawn dish spray, and I use a couple different things. I'll use like the little cheap Brillo pads from Dollar Tree, and I also have a little scrub brush that I use, and I just go over it real good, pick everything off, rinse it off, and it really comes clean. It does take a little bit of elbow grease, but like I said, I make such a mess. I need to figure out how not to make such a mess, but and it comes clean. And as far as I know, the Brillo pad and the other little scrub thing doesn't hurt it at all, because I'm able to use it over and over again, and it almost looks like new when I'm done.
And got everything off and then bring it back out. And I actually bought 2 of these. These are really nice cover. And then it has this. And this stores real easy. This totally covers it, so that your dust cover, and it holds the heat in. And then this, you just push that little metal thing in, and it folds right up, nice and compact, and you can stick it under your table or wherever. And then when you're not using this, you can just use this to do whatever else you're doing until you're gonna turn it on, but it would work as a regular table. And it's also a leveling table, so that makes it real nice. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. I was shocked. Ivana told me that she had been using it for a while, but I thought, I was kind of afraid to use it. And I did, and it worked perfectly fine. 2 hours instead of having to wait overnight. You can hear my cat Charlie in the background. So anyway, all in all, I think this turned out cute. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of second guessed myself. I feel like it needs something else, especially up at the top there. Don't you think? Maybe I should have made a bigger pumpkin. But it looks very Halloween-y, I think. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. You have to go into the settings under subscribe, and there's a little bell setting, and it will notify you if you want every time I put out a new video. And with the holidays, I'm going to try to put out a couple videos a week, so keep watching. And we have the Facebook page going, amazing, very helpful creative group over there. You can get a lot of ideas. All their holiday stuff is coming out now. And I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for watching.